He ran, he pulled away, he shut down emotionally, and now all you're left with is the echo of a connection that once felt undeniable. But what if this silence is not rejection? What if it's a divine pause, a sacred space created by the universe, not to punish you, but to awaken you? Because when the masculine runs, the feminine is not meant to shrink, beg, or chase. She is meant to rise, to return to her center, to reconnect with the fire of her own soul, to remember who she is, not because he sees her, but because she finally sees herself. This moment of silence may feel like heartbreak, but it's actually the moment your true power begins to emerge. It's not about waiting, it's about aligning. And the more you align, the more the path reveals itself, with or without him. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop waiting and start awakening? Let me know in the comments if this is exactly where you are right now. Have you felt the shift in your heart? The moment when pain turns into clarity? Your story might be the sign another soul needs to hear today. Share it. There comes a moment on the twin flame journey that feels like the deepest ache when the divine masculine pulls away. He disconnects. He disappears. The silence becomes deafening, and suddenly you're left wondering if everything you felt was real or just in your head. But here's the truth. His retreat is not the end of your story. It is a turning point, not just for him, but for you. When he disappears, it often happens after a deep energetic activation. Perhaps you had a breakthrough moment, an emotional connection, or even just a surge of unconditional love between your souls. But instead of leaning in, he runs. And that can feel like betrayal, like abandonment. But what if it's something else? What if it's his soul sensing the intensity of the connection and instinctively stepping back, not to hurt you, but to process it in his own way? What if this pause is sacred? The masculine is often not as emotionally or spiritually prepared for the intensity of the twin flame bond as the feminine is. He may love deeply, but still not know how to hold that love. So when he disappears, it's often his higher self saying, I need time, I need space to awaken. But where does that leave the feminine? What happens when the one you feel destined for suddenly vanishes? This is when the feminine is invited to her own becoming, not as a reaction to his absence, but as a reclaiming of her light. Ask yourself honestly, have you been waiting in silence, hoping he returns? Have you started questioning your worth because of his distance? Have you been holding your breath instead of letting yourself breathe again? This moment is sacred. It's not about chasing. It's not about fixing anything. It's about rediscovering your truth. Because when he disappears, the universe is lovingly whispering, now it's time to return to you. This space is not empty, it's fertile. It holds the potential for your deepest healing, your greatest breakthroughs, and the most powerful spiritual upgrades. It's not a punishment, it's preparation for a new version of you, stronger, softer, more whole. Tell me in the comments, are you in this space now? Have you felt the weight of his absence, but also the subtle pull back to yourself? Let's hold space for each other. Your story may be the light another feminine soul needs today. Why the masculine runs. One of the most confusing and painful moments in the twin flame journey is when the divine masculine runs. He pulls away, disconnects, or even shuts down completely, and leaves the divine feminine standing in the mystery of why. But this reaction isn't random, and it's not because the love isn't real. In fact, he runs because the love is too real. The intensity of the twin flame bond is unlike anything either soul has experienced before. For the masculine, this love doesn't just open his heart, it shatters every wall he's ever built to protect himself. And for someone who's spent a lifetime learning to survive by suppressing emotion, staying in control, and denying vulnerability, this is overwhelming. Many divine masculines have a deep fear of being fully seen. They may crave love, but when love comes in such pure, soul-deep form, as it does in the twin flame connection, it mirrors back all their wounds. Suddenly, every hidden insecurity, every piece of unresolved trauma, every moment they never cried, is staring them in the face. So they run. Not always physically, sometimes emotionally, energetically, spiritually. But the running is real. Ask yourself gently, have you felt abandoned even after moments of deep connection with him? Do you feel like he disappears when things become too good, too deep, too honest? Have you internalized his running as a sign that you're not enough? Beautiful soul, it's not about your worth. It's about his readiness. He's not running from you. He's running from the version of himself he's afraid to become. The version who would have to open, feel, surrender, and truly love. The version that has to die to the ego and rise in the heart. That's terrifying for someone who hasn't yet learned that vulnerability is strength. And here's the paradox. The feminine often awakens first. She feels the truth of the bond early and begins to spiritually align. The masculine, however, often takes longer, not because he's less connected, but because his path to surrender is steeper. He has to face more internal resistance to even believe this kind of love is safe or possible. But know this, running doesn't mean it's over. Running doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Running means he's still learning how. And sometimes his soul needs this separation in order to finally crack open. Sometimes his absence is part of his awakening. Have you witnessed this in your journey? Has he pulled away just when it felt like things were opening? Share in the comments how this experience has shaped you. You are not alone, and your voice may bring comfort to another divine feminine walking the same path. What the feminine is truly being called into. When the divine masculine runs, the immediate instinct of the feminine is often confusion, longing, and pain. The heart asks, why did he go? What did I do wrong? What now? But what if the real question isn't about him? What if, in this sacred moment of distance, the soul of the feminine is being called deeper into herself? This is the moment when the feminine is not being asked to chase. She is being asked to rise, to soften and strengthen, to remember that she is not just half of a love story. She is the whole embodiment of divine love itself. You see, this phase of the journey is not a punishment. It's an initiation. The feminine is being called into radical self-love, not the kind that comes from affirmations alone, but the kind that says, I will not abandon myself just because you left. I will not shrink my light just because you're not ready to meet it. I trust that my soul knows the way, and I will walk it. She's being called to release the old patterns of waiting, fixing, rescuing, or proving. Because this love is not about convincing someone to stay. It's about becoming the version of yourself who no longer needs them to. Ask yourself with honesty and love, have you tied your sense of purpose to his presence? Have you been postponing your healing, your joy, your next chapter, waiting for him to return? What parts of you have been dimmed because you feared shining alone? The call now is to break that cycle. The feminine is here to remember her divinity, regardless of what the masculine chooses. Her sacred path is not determined by his readiness. It's anchored in her soul's truth. And ironically, it's this level of inner wholeness that begins to shift everything. The moment she no longer waits is the moment her energy transforms. The moment she reclaims her light is the moment he feels her in a new way. because the feminine is not meant to be in longing. She's meant to be in alignment, not in pursuit, but in presence. She becomes magnetic, powerful, grounded, not because she's perfect, but because she's real. She stops asking for love and starts embodying it. And from this space, she begins to attract not only the masculine, but a whole new reality that reflects her worth. So if he's run, let him. Let him face his mirror, his silence, his becoming, and let yourself answer the greater call to step into the full expression of who you came here to be. What if this is your moment of rebirth? Share in the comments. What are you being called into during this time? Are you stepping into a new level of self-worth, purpose, or alignment? Your story might be the very light another soul needs to see today. When the masculine runs, the feminine often feels left behind in a whirlwind of emotions: abandonment, confusion, heartbreak. But beneath the surface of that pain lies something much deeper, a sacred pull from the universe, not a punishment, not rejection, but an invitation. The energetic invitation is the subtle, divine moment when the universe whispers, "Come back home to yourself." It's the soul's call to rise, not by force, but through remembrance. It's not about proving you're worthy. It's not about waiting for someone to finally see your value. It's about you seeing it first. This moment is an initiation into the deepest alignment of your energy field. You're being asked to pause the chasing, pause the questioning, and instead turn inward to recalibrate your vibration, because everything is energy. If you remain in the frequency of fear, waiting, or lack, you'll continue to attract that same mirror. But if you shift into the frequency of love, wholeness, and truth, the entire connection starts to respond differently. The masculine can feel that shift. He may not understand it logically, but on a soul level, it reaches him. It creates space. It creates magnetism. So what does this energetic invitation feel like? It feels like a soft inner pull to let go. It feels like silence suddenly becoming sacred. It feels like trusting that even in his absence, you are not alone, and that you are still connected, just not in the way the ego craves. Ask yourself now, can I sit in this space of uncertainty and still choose love for myself? Can I see this separation as sacred rather than as something going wrong? The universe is not asking you to give up. It's asking you to step into a new vibration. It's asking you to release attachment to the form of love and instead embody the essence of it. This is when the feminine becomes her own source of safety. She no longer clings, she expands. She no longer waits, she listens. She no longer fears what's to come, she trusts what's unfolding. And through that deep inner shift, the energy between you and your counterpart begins to transform. Because twin flames aren't separated by distance, they're separated by vibration. When you rise into your higher frequency, you invite him silently to meet you there. Not through words, not through action, but through energetic resonance. This is the invitation, not for reunion first, but for returning to yourself. Not for answers from him, but for answers from within. And the more you choose that path, the more the path ahead begins to clear. Have you felt this inner call lately? Have you experienced moments where your soul asked you to let go, not out of defeat, but out of divine trust? Comment below. Your reflection may activate clarity in someone else walking the same path. How to stop spiraling and start reclaiming. When the masculine pulls away, disappears, goes silent, or shuts down emotionally, the feminine often enters a storm of questions. The mind races, the heart aches, and the nervous system kicks into overdrive. What did I do wrong? Why is this happening again? Will he ever come back? And just like that, she spirals. But this spiral isn't about him. It's about the wounds the connection activated. It's about abandonment fears, old programming, and the belief that love must come through struggle or proving your worth. So, how do you stop spiraling? It begins with awareness. The moment you catch yourself spinning, overanalyzing texts, scrolling for signs, replaying conversations, you pause, not with judgment, not with shame, but with compassion. Ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me right now? What emotion am I avoiding by staying in my head? When you spiral, you're trying to make sense of something that isn't logical. It's energetic. And the more you chase clarity through overthinking, the further you move from your center. Reclaiming begins by dropping back into your body. Feel your feet. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe. Say to yourself, I am safe. I am loved. I choose to return to me. This is not bypassing the pain. It's holding yourself through it. You don't stop spiraling by fixing him. You stop by coming back to your truth. The feminine spirals when she forgets who she is. When she starts trying to control something that was never hers to manage. So what do you do instead? You reclaim your power. That means choosing presence over obsession. Choosing sovereignty over victimhood. choosing to be the center of your own world again. Reclaiming looks like getting outside and connecting with nature instead of rereading old messages. Channeling your energy into creativity, movement, or spiritual practice. Listening to your intuition rather than searching for confirmation outside yourself. It's powerful, subtle, and sacred. This is how you transmute the spiral into fuel for your evolution. Because every time you choose you, you shift the vibration of the connection. The more grounded and whole you become, the more magnetic your energy becomes. The divine masculine can feel that, even from a distance, even in silence. It's not about chasing, it's about becoming the energetic home he can return to when he's ready. But here's the truth. The moment you stop spiraling, you realize you don't need him to return to feel whole. You've already returned to yourself. Have you experienced this inner spiral? What tools or practices help you reclaim your energy and come back to your center? Share in the comments. Your wisdom could be exactly what someone else needs to read today. At some point on this twin flame journey, there comes a deep and quiet moment of surrender. Not the kind that means giving up or walking away in resentment, but a surrender rooted in soul wisdom, a sacred release, a moment where the feminine stops looking outside for answers and starts listening deeply within. She realizes this journey was never just about him. It was always about her. So here you are. After the spirals, the longing, the signs, the silence, standing in the stillness. And in that stillness, something beautiful emerges. Your sacred step forward. This next step isn't a strategy. It's not about doing anything to fix the connection or bring him back. It's an energetic choice to embody the woman your soul has always known you are becoming. Can you feel her? She's not waiting anymore. She's leading with love, but not from desperation. She's open, but not unguarded. She's anchored in her truth, even if the world around her feels uncertain. So ask yourself, what version of you is being born through this process? Are you willing to step into her fully without needing him to validate your worth? Because the real sacred step isn't chasing the masculine. It's choosing to rise in your own light, not as a reaction to his absence, but as a commitment to your presence. When the feminine fully claims herself, her body, her voice, her intuition, her power, something shifts in the field between them. It's not magic, it's alignment. And here's what's wild. Often, right when you stop looking, he begins to feel the pull. Not because you did something to manipulate the energy, but because you became whole in your own frequency. That's the alchemy. That's the reunion of energies within you that begins to mirror outside. But even if he doesn't return right away or at all, you will have already arrived where your soul was leading you all along, home to yourself. Your sacred step now is simple but profound. Choose to trust the unfolding. Choose to love yourself as deeply as you've longed to be loved. Choose to let go of what's not showing up for you in truth, and open space for what is. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your embodiment. So dance, create, cry if you need to. Write the letter you'll never send. Pray. Laugh with your whole body and walk forward in love, not because you've been chosen, but because you finally chose yourself. Tell me in the comments, what sacred step are you ready to take today? What part of yourself are you ready to reclaim, release, or rise into? Your voice matters. Your journey inspires. And someone reading your words might feel less alone because you shared. You are never walking this path in vain. You are walking it for you. And that is everything.